Well, a very good evening from sunny Cyprus. Well, it's not sunny at the moment because it's bloody midnight. So this really is a late for me. But it ain't so late for Nigel. And if you knew what I'd done earlier on, you would have had an absolute laugh. I'm sure he's going to tell you anyway. Good evening and welcome to the West Ham Voice and welcome to Friday Late Night. And thank you all for joining me. And thanks to the missus as well. He's scratching the sofa. He's scratching. And I've got my co-host. Let's bring him on. Good evening, Mr. Calm.
How you doing, still?
I'm very well,
Good
mate.
to see you again. Well. It's been all of an hour and a half.
Yeah, well. Just to let you know, I fucked up. I came rushing back from a restaurant, having a lovely meal with the other half, and telling her we've got to hurry up because I'm going to be late for the show, only to realise that I was running on Cyprus time, which is 2 hours later. So there you go. She weren't too pleased, but there you go. How are you? How's it in London?
Wet.
It's
not cold though.
Well, all right.
It's not cold for like London.
Okay.
You know? It's not
so
cold
it's
in
about
the shed.
10 degrees then.
Got no heating on in the shed. I'm not cold.
So no one's dying of the fact that
pneumonia.
they can't turn the heating on.
No.
Wow.
No.
And I've heard that there's been.
You muted yourself. You've muted yourself. He's muted. Look at that, people. Look. Amateur hour. Oh, this is great fun, people. Anyway, I'll tell you what he's got lined up. Oh, he's back. There you go.
Can you hear me?
You was like Marcel Marceau for a minute there.
I heard there's lots going on in the political world over there. We're
Well,
on our 18th Prime Minister this week, aren't we?
You'd have been well happy. Well, you probably are well happy. Obviously, Trust lasted just about the same amount of time as Brian Clough did at Leeds United in that great film Damned United. Obviously, what they'd have to call it would be Damned Disunited for Liz Truss's movie, wouldn't it? I mean, but she's happy, isn't she? She gets to trouser 110 grand a year pension now.
Uh-huh.
So every year until she cops it, 110 grand a year for being
for 44 days worth of fucking
44
work.
days worth of work. Every prime minister, when they retire, gets a payment of £110,000 a year.
That's absolutely
and if you're in the job for 1 day or 10 years or 12 years, that's what you get.
Incredible. Well, the good thing is our manager's lasted longer than that, which is good. Apparently, Sam Allardyce lasted longer managing England than Trusted. Your favourite manager?
Yeah, well, but he only had one game, didn't he? But he did win it, I suppose.
Yeah, 100% record. You can never take that away from him, can you?
No. I expect he'll dine out on it forever.
I bet he has been already.
Yeah.
So let's go on to West Ham because we got. I know you've pulled the stats together, and I put up some images from what you sent me earlier on. Because what we're going to talk about primarily is this whole issue about David Moyes and how he doesn't go for it when he plays the so-called bigger teams. And your analysis that you've sent me earlier on seems to suggest that he's not the only manager that's not been too happy when it comes to playing these so-called big teams away from home. Is that correct?
Well, it's not so much he's the only manager. I don't know if it's something that's in the DNA of West Ham, but as I look back over the records, because the one thing is obviously I don't travel so much now, but I've done a lot of travelling, watching West Ham play. Used to go to a lot of away games. Never used to win a lot, and we all know the stat about how many times that Moyes hasn't won at Anfield. Well, West Ham's only won there once.
Yeah.
Since 1964, and I think 4 times ever.
In cup competitions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So but then it came out. I wrote a story last night on 6'2". If you're wondering, people, about this. I think it was on the BBC. I think I heard it on the BBC that David Moyes has never won away at Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and it was like 69 games he'd never won away. And if you threw in Man City under Pep, it's 75 games he's never won away.
But, so is that like, I mean, so are fans right when it comes to David Moyes playing these bigger teams? Has he got like this? I mean, I put in the title, you know, is it too much respect, or you know, does he fear them, or what's the reasoning behind it? Yeah, we hear an awful lot about fans talking about David Moyes. You know, putting up the shutters and trying to sort of nick a 0-0, nick a draw, or you know, trying to grab a 1-0 away from home and stuff like that. I mean, are they being proved right? Are the you know, the millions of pundits we got on social media, are they now being proved right because of that record, or is it?
I don't know proved right, but I mean, it's hard when you get a stat like that. It's put down. It sits there. People can twist it and turn it to whatever point of argument there is. There's no hiding from the fact that he's never won at these clubs, though. So it does allude to throughout, and this is in the Premier League. So he turned up in the Premier League in 2002. So in 20 years, he's genuinely failed to beat the big boys at all. Now, you know, we'll come to the research that I've done a bit later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's generally, though, we don't even win. But there's times where certain managers have gone and managed to achieve it. The fact that Moyes hasn't, for Everton, I mean, he's won at Old Trafford, hasn't he? But the only time he's won at Old Trafford was when he was Man U manager, and he obviously didn't do it enough because they sacked him pretty quick.
Well, are we just talking about the Premier League? Because we
yes.
did win in. Okay.
Yeah, so this is David Moyes in the Premier League. 69 games, no wins against Man U, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. Now, obviously, they don't throw Tottenham in there because we've beat Tottenham at Tottenham.
Well, they're not a top 6 team or anything, so there's no point.
So, well, you say that, but they're in the Champions League, and you know, Man City's kept out of it. But then there was another stat banded about showing that if you add in Man City since Pep went there, then he hasn't won it. Does it? It's obviously a tactical. It's got to be a tactical thing. It's got to be the way he sets his teams up, whether it be Everton, whether it be Sunderland, whether it be West Ham, that he cannot go to these places. And bearing in mind, some of these he would have played as Man United manager, where he would have had, you know, but supposedly a better caliber of players at his disposal. And he didn't win during that, you know, what was he there, 7-8 months? He was there 3 quarters of the season, and he never even got an away win then at the big boys there. It is, you can't, those of us that, I don't know, those of us that the Moyes out brigade would label as pro Moyes, we've got to acknowledge in a way that there's something.
I was just about to say then, are you acknowledging then that what fans are saying at the moment, where Moyes goes out, you know, playing, well, it's going beyond just the top 5 teams. You know, a lot of people are suggesting that he's doing the same against some of the mid-table and lower teams.
I'm not sure about he's doing it against all other teams. Mm-hmm. Primarily, this stat is about the big teams, and I think yes, it's obviously he sets up very cautious, and if he can nick a point, he walks away happy. Mm-hmm. Where if you can be a bit gung ho, you might lose. Yeah, but then you may achieve a win.
And this is the issue, isn't it, mate? You know, it's like people are saying, well, you know, whenever we play one of these teams away from home, you know, it's a game where it doesn't matter what we do, so we might as well go for it. You
Well,
know,
it's a
so
free hit, isn't it? I mean,
that's what people say. It's a free hit. Yeah.
And then not wrong, because if you look at Anfield, you know, one win since 1963. You know, and blimey, that come out of the blue, because that screwed my coupon up. I had us to lose 3-0. So it's the times we've gone there and just not capitulated, but even if you try and nick it, where if you think with a bit of adventure, you could do something. Now, if you take Wednesday night game, we did play with a bit, you know, he kept it tight, but he actually did enough to win that game.
Yeah.
If Bowen scores the penalty, we go in, innit, half time 1-1. And
The
then
momentum would have been ours.
yeah, but in the second half, the momentum was with us. Because as we were chasing to try and get a point, we were the ones creating majority of the pressure. You know, I listen to football podcasts, the BBC, the Football Daily, the Guardian, and the Athletic. And the big talking point with them with the Liverpool game was what a fantastic tackle Milner's was. Stopped
for that last minute
goal.
Souček,
yeah. So that just shows you how much we probably how close we were to doing something. And
So-
I get it, it's frustrating, but you know.
Well, the other argument is that we seem to wait to either go 1-0 down to start playing, or we seem to waste the first half. A lot of the criticism has also been about, you know, we seem to go the first half trying to keep it tight, etc., and then only then we seem to sort of go for it in the second half. I mean, from what we're kind of saying, we're beginning to almost prove all the Moyes out brigade right in a weird sort of way.
I don't know about prove them right in a way, and this is why you got to take this group of, you know, his record against the big teams, and I think you obviously you strip it out, take it separately from what he does. But you can't argue with the fact that he's got to be. The reason for that is he's too cautious going into these games. Bearing in mind, as you say, they are free hits. The thing is, you don't want to be. Sometimes I get it. You think they don't want to be embarrassed. I don't know how the fan base would react. Well, we could imagine. Imagine we had been gung-ho against Liverpool. Yeah. Imagine if we'd gone for it from the start.
Spanked.
You know, and you're going in 3-0 down. What would the reaction be? Because we've been there, we've seen it, we've done it, we've got these
seen
results.
it many times.
Yeah. So that is a great possibility. You know, even one of the most, you know, attack-minded managers at West Ham, probably in recent times, Harry Redknapp. Harry would go to away games, change the team, keep it tight, you know, try and nick a goal. If it was 0-0, he would then maybe go and look for something.
Is that respecting these teams too much, though? You know, I mean, given that it's not just Moyes that has done it, is most, you know, quite a lot of West Ham managers in the past have done it. You know, I think what people are saying at the moment, and you know what side of the fence I sit on, mate. You know, I'm quite happy with the way Moyes goes about doing his things. I get frustrated as much as other people do as well. But I get it. I get why he tries to be a bit cautious against these teams. You know, but
yeah, I mean, if you take the Liverpool game, and this is the thing, it's easy to pick individual things out. We sort of, for me, did a 3/4 press, and the thing about pressing is you either do it 100%, yeah, or you don't do it at all. If you do a 3/4 press, so you only press 3/4 of the back line, they've still got an out and a way of passing the ball around. Now, we pressed early. If you think Alisson twice tried to kick the ball out and kicked it straight to a West Ham player in the midfield. But because we hadn't pressed fully, we didn't have the manpower to then really go out and attack them. So we let ourselves down. And a few times when we pressed, we boxed them into a corner. But again, because not every player had pressed, they had a spare player that they could lay the ball out,
bring it out.
And the reason why these are top teams is they've got top players that can pass the ball. You know, and this is the thing. you go gung-ho against them, you can be caught out. You keep it tight. If you press, the way to beat these teams is realistically is you got to score the first goal. It's very, very rare that they will go behind, that they will go in front and then lose the game to a team like West Ham.
What about this comment that Vino's made? It kind of links into what you've said. Not many people are advocating a gung-ho approach. Just stop playing 7 or 8 defensive players. You know, so for example, over Fornals, rather Benny. I mean, but isn't that kind of like the borderline there, where we know Benrahma is not a defensive-minded player, is more an attack-minded player. In Moyes' mind, does that mean, you know, he had Bowen on, Skamaka on, etc.? I mean, I was actually surprised with the lineup. I looked at that lineup on Wednesday, and I saw Souček, Declan, and Downs, who had a good game.
Yeah.
And when you have those 3 defensive-minded midfielders, one could argue that maybe someone like Benrahma could have been given a bit more of a license, because Fornals was asked to play a more defensive-minded midfield role, wasn't he? You know, we actually had 4 defensive-minded midfielders, given the type of game that Fornals was asked to play.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was a team to keep it tight, try not to concede a goal, and then see what happens in the second half. But as we saw with their goal, you know, Johnson allows the bloke 2 yards too much. If Johnson was 2-3 yards further forward when the bloke, he probably wouldn't have had the room to cross the ball. Nunes gets in between. You know, he's not scored at Anfield. You know, I was talking with my son-in-law before the game, or as the game goes on, you know, should we have a bet on Nunes? You know, because the stat was he hadn't scored at Anfield. And lo and behold, he pops up and scores.
Yeah, that's always typical, isn't it? A player we're after, or a player we're linked to, is the one that comes and scores. It's easy
at the start to look at a lineup and go, too defensive. But did we play too defensive?
No, I don't think this is it. I don't think we did. I don't think we did play too defensively. I mean, all things considered, I think we took the game to them. And okay, yeah, I think we've suffered yet again. It's funny because this time last year, we had the same issues with our defence. And this is where we're suffering. We're allowing too many goals to go in because we had a defensive, central defensive crisis. You know, it was around about this time last year when Zuma got injured, and we were all speculating that David Moyes, or it might have been just a bit later, but we were all speculating that Moyes was going to go in the transfer market and get a central defender in. And then he just came back and he kind of didn't bother to do it, you know, and it looks like we've got the same issue at the moment. We've got Dawson out. Zuma kind of was just back. We've got Agerd, of course, you know, so Zuma was back, but Zuma played decent considering he hadn't trained very much. But isn't it, you know, it's fine when to play defensive minded and to keep it tight. But it feels, you've just said about Ben Johnson, if he'd have been a little bit tighter on Nunes, he might not have got that shot on target or that header on target.
See, that's and what people. Sorry, don't fuck off.
Got mosquito. I must have sent it from you from Cyprus.
Yeah. So anyway, got him. So what the thing about that is, that's a defensive error by Johnson. Moyes cops the flack.
Yeah.
But it's a defensive error by an individual player.
Yeah.
Now, what the one thing that people, or a stat that was put out, but obviously wasn't repeated often enough, was prior to the Liverpool game, in the previous 3 games, West Ham United had more shots in the games, 60, than any other club in the preceding 3 games. Now, obviously, these were games, I think the previous league games were like, obviously, Watford, Wolves, Fulham, and the other game escapes my memory, would have been a draw. Southampton. So we'd had those 3 games. Now, people accuse Moyes, and I'll get a bit defensive, I'd admit it, perhaps over-defensive Moyes, but then people start attacking Moyes as, the way he's holding us back, we're not attacking football. But if we're having, you know, the Southampton game, was it not 24 shots on goal? Now, whether they're on target or not, that's not David Moyes' fault. So he set the team up. He's put the team out there. They've had 24 attempts on goal. If they're not on target,
that's
look
not
at
the
the
manager's
player.
fault. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not
the
the
ones
manager's
that are
fault.
shooting. So if they've only got 4 on target, that's down to the individual player. And a lot of these players that are shooting, these are players where in the past have popped up with goals and creativity. So,
and this is the nub for me, because I'm looking at games and I'm reading what people are saying about the team, and I do respect everyone's opinions. You know, I don't agree with everyone's opinions, and you know, we all have our opinions on the way the team is playing, etc. But I'm looking at a team where we're not playing badly. We've been unlucky, but we're not playing badly. If you look at the game against Forest at the beginning of the season, if you look at the game against Chelsea, where we, you know, got done because of VAR. If you look at the game against Southampton, we didn't play too badly. If you look at the game against Liverpool, you know, I mean, Liverpool meant to be one of the best teams in the Premier League, and yet we gave them a really hard game. I mean, I won't lie to you. The minute we missed that penalty, I did say that was the only chance we're going to get to really get back into it. And it actually did surprise me how well we did in the second half. You know, I thought our heads would go down after that penalty.
But we I just said we didn't create clear chances, but we had a lot of the ball and we carved out quite a few half chances. The funny thing about that game as well for me is how good we looked when we went to a 4-4-2.
Mm.
And I know some people, I can see you in there, pointing out about, oh, Liverpool made changes. Well, we made changes as well. So I'm not sure we only look good because Liverpool made changes. We look good as well because we made changes. The fact is, you know, I'm a great believer in 4-4-2. I know it's outdated in the modern game, but the funny thing, especially for a team like West Ham, when we play a 3-5-2 or you know,
1-1, yeah,
whatever. Yeah, the thing about it is you've only got like one set of wide players on your flanks. When you're playing a 4-4-2, you got the wingers are there to protect the defenders. You know, if he'd have had a 4-4-2, there's a good chance that player wouldn't have had a run on Johnson to get the ball across for the goal, because a wider player would have been out there in front of him. Now, for me, I'm not sure I'd want to see a 4-4-2 with Souček and Rice in the middle. I think the Liverpool game actually realistically highlighted that Flynn Downs is now ready to take over from Souček.
He did extremely well.
And it's quite funny because with Flynn Downs almost doing a Rice-like job and some of the ability that he showed, that could free up Declan. We saw against Southampton that Declan can, you know, come up with a goal and not just a tap in. You know, that was a really great finish from him at Southampton. So he's got that in his locker. We've seen him hit these shots from outside the area, smash them into the back of the goal.
Yeah.
And you remember it was Souček when he was brought was further forward, and then it was almost like there was a bit of role reversal that Souček was the one to sit because Deck wanted a license to roam freer. And in a
Downs
way,
could be the player to give him that license to go forward.
Yeah,
he's played extremely well, the young lad. I mean, you know, okay, many were arguing, and even I kind of said it. You know, to be honest with you, you know, he's played extremely well, but you could regard the Europa Champions teams, Europa Conference teams, as a bit of a championship level teams.
Yeah.
What he proved the other night against Liverpool was, like you've just said, he's absolutely ready.
Yeah.
For Premier League. I want to touch on Mandy's point. We need a quality left wing back badly. Then we won't need to keep playing Fornals as a left wing midfielder. We bought 2 this summer. All right, one of them's out injured at the moment, with
Yeah.
Cornet, and then there's Emerson. That's actually a good point. I actually feel really sorry for Fornals now because he's becoming the four guy. It was Souček, and Souček is now picking up his pace, and now it's Fornals, and people are slating Fornals for his performances, and yet poor old Fornals, for me, has been played out of position for the last season and a half because we didn't have a left wing back. And now we've gone out and bought Emerson, and we know that Cornet can both play those positions.
And
Fair
Benny.
play. And Benny, but to a lesser extent, because he's more of an attack-minded wing back rather than a defence-minded wing back, whereas Cornet can do both. And why is it that, given that we bought all right, Cornet's out. I mean, he might be back for Bournemouth on Monday, we believe. But why is it that he's got Emerson and yet he provides Fornals as that defensive cover? Because a lot of people are saying he's putting Fornals there as cover for an inept Creswell. I don't know. Do you think that? Do you think that because Creswell?
No, I think it's. I think he puts Fornals. I think Fornals' work rate. He's non-stop running, is what wins him over. But it comes at a loss of the more flamboyant player. And this is where it actually plays into, the sort of the those that criticise Moyes more. And that you got to try and get a balance of your defensive minded players and your attack minded, but also you got to have a license for the flamboyant players. How would Moyes have dealt with a Payet? Payet basically didn't have a place, did he? You put him on the pitch and then the players played around him. Now, when we had Payet, we had Sacco up front. I think Valencia was still there, possibly.
Yeah.
We Andy Carroll. We had these attackers, and Payet played behind them, but he was given a license to roam. And you can do that. If you look back, it's obviously, people say you shouldn't look back, but obviously I like to compare teams. If you look back to when I started watching West Ham and the likes of Trevor Brooking, Brooking, technically, luxury player. This man never got booked. The reason for that is he hardly ever made a tackle. Yeah, but the fact is he didn't have to tackle because he had either Billy Bonds next to him, or then Bonzo went back behind him. He had a bit of protection from Bonds behind him, but he had people in the middle next to him, the likes. He would have Paul Allen was not a flamboyant player. Jeff Pike, who was out wide, would come inside. We didn't just have these flamboyant players. We had a great mixture, and that's where perhaps the people look at it. And when you look at it, you can see, Cannington Len, goes, we play 7 defenders. And when you look at it sometimes, it is hard to argue because Rice is defensive midfielder, Souček defensive midfielder, Well, Flynn Downs is defensive midfielder. Add that onto the 4 defenders on the pitch. That's 7 realistically defensive-minded players. If on top of that, he's playing Fornals, there's not a lot of creativity in a way. But we know what we get with Benny now, He will create something, but it's a 50-50. He will lose the ball. He may not get back. He's not great at tackling. But sometimes, if you've got enough people, when you're playing 7 players like that, for me, I would rather see Ben Rama than Fornals. And I know it's harsh on Fornals. But how do you accommodate Fornals? Well, for me, you then look at either Flynn Downs or Souček, and then Fornals sits more in the middle.
Well, this is it. Fornals, which is why I said I think he's a bit of a fall guy. And there was another comment about Ben Johnson earlier on as well, about how awful he's been. And again, it's another player that's being played out. If there's one thing that's slightly irritating me about Moyes at the moment is that he is still playing certain players out of position. Now, I think you could argue Johnson because we've had so many central defensive injuries, and maybe is Johnson getting a hard time as well?
Well, I don't know. I don't, the thing about Johnson is I remember looking at the game and you're thinking, he's a young player. So any young players that come in, they break into any team in the Premier League from their academy. You're naturally looking is if they're good enough to break into the Premier League, can they then go on and play for England? And watching Ben Johnson play, he doesn't strike me as a player in 3 years' time or 2 years' time that would be playing for England. Now, it don't mean he ain't good enough for the Premier League, but it depends, If you thinking that West Ham should be challenging for the top four, well, Ben Johnson ain't going to cut it. If like me, you'll gladly settle for mid-table and a nice cup run, and the fact that Glenn Johnson's a West Ham boy, I'm more than happy to accept him in the team. He's not a bad defender. He's not outstanding. You will get what happened. What you got to hope is that it is an age thing or a lack of an experience thing that he didn't shut the player down. Now,
and he'll learn from that. If he's a good player, he'll learn from that.
But he wasn't playing that position against Southampton, was he? And this is the thing, and this is where I think some fans don't take into consideration the injuries. The reason why Moyes played the back line he did against Southampton was he only had one central defender.
Exactly.
To lose that many central defenders injured, that's unlucky. That is. You can't. If you go into a season with 4 central defenders, you generally only play 2. So that's 2 as backup. Well, if you lose 3, leaving you 1,
you've got a problem.
You have got a problem.
There's a question here for you. I want to know if Nigel is entertained by the football we're playing.
It's not. It's a 50-50. Yeah. The Fulham game weren't bad. But then again, I'm not being funny. I don't think I'm being arrogant when I think I would say I would sort of expect that against Fulham. I would expect us to put in a performance like that against Fulham.
But then people will counter argue that.
No.
They would have.
We weren't that entertaining. Is it Harry style entertaining? Is it Bilic style? Is it 2015? Is it? No, it ain't. For all the stats I can throw out about, and I can still, about Moyes is actually the best Premier League manager points wise, and weirdly for goal scoring wise, it ain't flamboyant football. But the reason for that is the personnel. We go back to Harry.
Hang on a minute, it ain't flamboyant football, but yet I think we were entertained, even though we lost. I think we were entertained in the second half of the game against Liverpool.
I would argue there. I don't think we were entertained.
Well, I think because we were losing, it was a good. All right, that's what I mean. It was a good performance.
There's a difference. Yeah. Still, I will pick you up and go. There is a difference between entertaining football, and I will argue Moyes is not Allardyce. Yeah.
And I know some will argue that they think he is.
Yeah, but I think he's halfway. I think he's if there's a sliding scale where, Harry was the most attack-minded manager I thought that we had. Yeah. And then you slide it down to Allardyce, who Jesus Christ, absolutely destroyed football for me. Then Moyes sits in the middle, somewhere alongside Kirbishley. But, I spoke with Len the other day on the podcast. Kirbishley was our done by because he came to the club, saved us from going down. The next season stabilised us. Then we went bankrupt. Then our sponsors go bankrupt. The owners start going bankrupt. All the players are sold from underneath his feet. and he quits on a point of principle, which actually I sort of support. He was told no one would be sold without his say so. We sold 2 players he didn't even know.
Players under his nose,
McCarthy and Ferdinand. So they left. So while a lot of people, funny enough, a lot of people now look at Moyes and go, "Oh, it was like Kirbishley days. It was horses for courses." I get it. We've had these 2 years of finishing 6th and 7th under Moyes. How then do you become? He's changing now, though, isn't he? Because he's got to change the team because the team was getting old. So that team last year was quite an old team.
I'm going to ask you
the oldest. I think we were the oldest average.
Based on team selections, I'm going to ask you a question. So we've gone out and bought 150 odd million pounds worth of players.
Yeah,
you know, and many will say should be as good as, if not better than, it actually. When you look at the players, they should actually be better than what we bought. Does that mean the players that we brought in, the likes of Paquetá and Scamacca, etc., does that make the players that we already had at the club before them, does that now make them look a little bit more average? So the likes of Fornals and Souček and players like that, you've got all these big players that have come in, Scamacca, etc., etc. Are they another level up to what we've got?
Oh, no.
And does it mean that the players already in the squad are not to that new level now?
Well, no. The funny thing is, people look at Paquetá because he plays in the first team for Brazil. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, on the evidence I've seen, he's got some great touches of the ball, but you know he ain't no Neymar. No, and that may be a bit harsh. Yeah. He's more, you know, a Richarlison.
I don't know. That's not a good thing.
Well,
do
you know what I mean? Because we paid big money for him and whatever. You know, it ain't the greatest introduction into the Premier League for him, is he?
Yeah.
Some of the passing he's done has been fantastic. He's give the ball away at times, which for me is personally is forgivable by far and away, because sometimes he's put passes into areas our players just have not read it, and you think, this
is the question. Why I'm asking this question: are these new players that we got in at a level that's above the level of the players that we've already got? So when Paquetá makes that pass, that should be a goal-winning. You know, someone should be on the end of it and scoring a goal. It seems that some of the players that we got are not reading it.
I would say near enough all the players. The only player really on Paquetá's sort of level in a way is Declan Rice. Let's get Scamacca.
Not Scamacca?
Where did Scamacca weren't playing for Juve or Inter? He was playing for Sassuolo. Sassuolo are sort of a middle of the table, you know, West Ham area-ish type of football club, or you know, or they're like a Bournemouth or something like that, like a team that's come up, and they've done well, and he scored goals. He's broke into the Italian first team. The Italian fans, funny enough, are not too enamoured with him. Yeah, so during the day, I'll eat in a few different cafes. I was in a cafe recently in Clerkenwell talking. There's 2 brothers that run a cafe in Clerkenwell. One's West Ham, one's Leeds. Quite funny. The Leeds one was telling me that he played better in a front 2. He scored his goals with Sassuolo in a front 2. Yeah, he comes over here, but also
and he's asked to play
he's not
the Antonio
actually
role.
Done it for the Italian national team. Now, let's face it, we're crowing about him being Italian national. Who's not going to the World Cup?
Really? I'm going to bring in a young man who I haven't seen for a while. I think you know him, but let's bring him on anyway. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, boys.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Yeah. How are we?
Very well, Alf. I'm sure you've been, I know you've been watching and listening. So glad to have you on, mate.
Thank you.
Tell us your view. We, as you know, we're talking about Moyes, and I was going to liken the style of football we're playing in the Premier League to the style of football we're playing in the Europa Conference. And I mean, to me, or maybe to many people, it looks like we're just going gung ho in the Europa Conference. We're going out there, we're scoring goals, but we are conceding. against lesser opposition. So what's your thoughts? I mean, do you think that Moyes is too much of a, people call him a ditherer, people call him boring, people say he's not, he doesn't take chances, etc. What's your perspective on him?
Well, I think it's an interesting thing you say about in the Conference League, because I think the way I see us in the Conference League, that we are a team that is better than the Conference League and possibly good enough for the Europa League, but we just haven't qualified. So we're kind of overperforming in, you take this performance against Anderlecht, for example, right? We bossed it. Downs was just absolutely fantastic. In 2 or 3 games, he was just brilliant. Against Liverpool, he was still really good, but it wasn't the same kind of level of performance. So if you take just one individual player, then you can transfer that to the whole team. It's like, the Conference League, we're just shining. We're just doing so well. But I think it's just because the opposition that we're playing. Whereas you take us again in the Premier League, you come, and I kind of think I suppose I'm going to be a bit West Ham defensive here, because I'm going to say, well, hold on a minute. We are West Ham, and what are we expecting? We're expecting to go to Liverpool and
this is the great question.
Are we expecting to go to Liverpool and give them a good game?
Yeah,
and I thought we gave them a good game. Second
I agree.
Half,
and this is the thing.
I thought we could have had them. We could have.
Was it entertaining though, Alf?
It was, from my point of view. I thought it was.
I thought we played really well. I thought I was on the edge of my seat.
Look, the first half, especially as I was hearing you say before, Alisson looked really dodgy. Our problem is that we're not, as this always seems to be the West Ham way, isn't it? We struggle in the final third and finishing. But at least right now, Scamacca, he's taking shots on goal, and we are getting in those positions. Yeah, we're not firing on all 4 cylinders, as it were. Pardon the automotive parlance there, but at the same time, I think we're not far off either. We're not getting stuffed 4-5-0 by Liverpool.
Well, this is it exactly.
4-5-0 by Man City. We're actually almost there.
And it's interesting because I wonder what fans would think now, when we were getting stuffed, 4 or 5-0, against City and Liverpool, etc. I'm sure fans were upset with that as well, saying we weren't defensive enough and we gave them too much. We gave them too much space and allowed them to play their game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing is, and this is the thing, yeah. So, you've heard me say, I love the time when Harry was manager. Yeah, fantastic football. Sinclair, Di Canio, Joe Cole, Carrick, even Frankie Lampard. We had some outstanding players towards the end of Harry's time. Did it blow out or cold then? Well, our highest Premier League finish is 5th. Yeah, I think we had a minus goal difference that season. A minus goal difference. We finished 5th, but still conceded more goals than we scored. So
I don't want to bring up.
Look, I'm with you, Nigel. I'm with you. I think sometimes I look back at rose-tinted specs. You know what I mean? Or Claret and Boost specs, and I think, wasn't it great, fantastic years ago, and all that sort of stuff. And I just look at us now, and I think, do you know what? Compared to 2-3 seasons ago, what we were doing then, look at the difference. Look at the difference. And now we're sort of, we're just. And I kind of, and I wonder, how many of us fans are just thinking, hold on a minute, have we forgotten how bad we were 2-3 seasons ago? And now, look at us now. We should be beating those teams around us. And we're in that kind of phase where sometimes we will, sometimes we won't. We've had a slow start to the season, granted, but, last couple of results have been pretty decent. But then we come up against Liverpool and we think, hold on a minute, we've actually given them a decent game and we could have got something out of that. So, usual doom and gloom merchant here is actually.
Well, I'm going to bring up a comment. I didn't want to, but it caught my eye, so I'm going to do it. And I want your views on this. I want your views on this. I think it's embarrassing to refuse to acknowledge the football we played in the Premier League for 11 months has been shit. But we're all entitled to our opinions.
Well, I would completely agree with that.
Would you?
Yeah.
Honestly and truly, he's saying basically we played shit in the Premier League for 11 months.
No. He's refusing to acknowledge that we've played
No,
shit.
he's not refusing. I think it's embarrassing to refuse to acknowledge that the football we played in the Premier League has been shit.
Oh, no, I don't agree with that. No,
I didn't think you did.
No.
Mr. Khan?
Sorry, I misread that. I need to put my specs on here. Hold on.
You do.
Look, listen, at the end of the day, have the results, yeah. So last season, we all know we fell away after Christmas. And actually, if we look at it, we started to fall away before Christmas.
Yeah. Sure.
But by hook or by crook, and I have said that to Nicholas there, that luckily we play football in a season, not yearly. So it has been it has been a poor 11 months. It's not been the greatest 11 months. No, there is a point, but it's nowhere near as bad for me as what people were painted. Now, again with the stats, Moyes is now the second longest serving Premier League manager West Ham's ever had. So he's overtook Allardyce.
I bet that makes you happy.
Harry, So Harry, he's got a long way to go.
Wait a minute. Sorry, Nigel. He's the second longest serving.
Well, Premier League
manager.
Premier League.
Okay. I was going to say.
Obviously, the first season of him was played in the Championship. Yeah. So, in Premier League games wise, Moyes has gone past him. So only Harry managed us for more, but Harry managed double. But Moyes has got a better win record percentage wise. He's got a better goal scoring per game record, and has conceded less games per game than any other West Ham manager in Premier League. And I think you've got to take that into consideration, that how can people, we've had a bad start to the season, and I ain't going to dress it up, averaging a point per game, generally, if you carry on for the season, will relegate you.
Yeah.
So, but you do have to look back at what he's done in the past, and that has bought him time, and I think it's bought him longer time than he's being given by certain sections of the fan base.
Why is it, Nigel? Why is it or both of you answer this? Why is it that, and I know last season maybe was a bit rose tinted because we did so well in the Europa League, and maybe it's sort of like it kind of covered what was going on in the Premier League. We kind of fell away in the second half of the season, etc. But why is it that fans have turned, and I want to say turned so nasty, but why is it that fans have become frustrated with Moyes? I mean, people have said it. People have said, I think James had just said it, transformed us from a yo-yo club 2 years in a row that we've been in Europe, etc. And I keep asking the same question. I don't really think I get a proper answer from an awful lot of people. It's what is the expectation of fans for West Ham United? And you both said it, remember what it was like in the past. Remember what it was like where, we've had some very, very bad times as a club. And the fact that, as James just said, he's brought us stability. Okay, it's not been great this season, and it wasn't great at the tail end of last season, but we had a great ride last season with the Europa League and so on and so forth. What are people expecting? Now, Nigel, I've heard you say, and I agree with you, if we win a cup this season and we finish 11th or something like that, you'd be delighted. And I agree with that. I think if we win a trophy and we kind of finish mid-table, I'll take that any day. Alf, what's your thoughts? And then we'll go on to why are people expecting much, much more of Moyes than they have been, after the last 6 seasons.
I mean, I'm exactly the same. I think if we are anything above 10th, or certainly 8th, if we're 6th and above, I am ecstatic. 8th, I'm a happy bunny. and even 10th, I'm content. But if we're doing well in the cup competition, whether it's League Cup, whatever they call it these days, or FA Cup, or certainly Conference League, I am a very happy bunny. So like last season, I was very happy. Semi-finals of Europa League. We finished a decent position in the league. Yes, our performance has dropped off, but how many times have we seen this of clubs like us? Let's say mid-table clubs, we get into Europe and then we struggle for league form the next season or whatever. It happens time and time again. And this comes down to squad depth, and this comes down to year upon year of squad progression and evolution to strengthen it up. And it takes a club about 4 or 5 seasons of being in Europe, playing those games, and having to develop a depth of squad to be able to contend with that, to get that level of consistency. Now, if you ask me of any other club or any other fan in the land or around the world who is not bitching and moaning about their team, who thinks that they should be doing better, we're all the same. Everybody's thinking we should be doing better, we should be beating them or whatever. But most of it, let's call it as it is. Most of us fans are unrealistic. We're unrealistic. You asked me in years gone by, Al, what's your prediction for the game? I'll say, yeah, we're going to smash these lot 5-0. Yeah. And I will say that every single time. And even to this day, I'll go into every game and say, we're going to smash this lot 5-0. Because if you don't have that confidence, that mental ability, that mental confidence as a player, as a manager, as a fan, before a game, you've already lost the game. You've got to have that kind of arrogance going into the game. We're going to smash them. Now, is that realistic? Of course not. I'm not saying. Am I disappointed if we lose? Well, of course I'm disappointed if we lose. But if we don't smash a team 5-0, of course not. But it's about having a kind of willful expectation and then a realistic expectation. I think sometimes we've kind of lost our way in not just West Ham fans. I'm talking all fans.
And that's why I've asked. Yeah, that's why I've asked the question: where do we think we should be as a club? If you look at Leicester, for example, who won the league, look at where they are now. You look at Aston Villa, who've just sacked. Have they just sacked? What's his name?
Yeah, Gerrard.
Gerrard. He spent a lot of money. Flair players galore, but they're not doing any better than we are. In fact, they're doing worse than we are. I know we've spent a lot of money in the summer transfer window. I know we have. But I think you're right, Alf. We've got to be consistent. Not only do we have to be consistently playing in Europe, to sort of get that momentum, et cetera, but doesn't it take time to, I mean, we're going to have the same problem. I think we said it the last time we did a Friday night, Nigel, where I think we're going to have the same problem this time next season when we're going to have to probably buy another 5, 6, 7 players and take time to gel them in as well. It takes time, doesn't it?
I mean, this is the thing. There's no account that actually we are transitioning from the team that he kept up. He added a few players in. I'm pretty sure our average age last year was over 28.
Yeah, and it's now 27.
We were the oldest team. And at some point, you have to stop buying the 28 to 30-year-olds that had finished article. The reason why West Ham always spend money in the transfer window and why we haven't spent some money is that we've never bought the right players that had a sell-on value that we could bring through, sell them for big money and buy others. Because if you look how Spurs got they were, it started with them selling their best players every season. The likes of Modric. They sold Modric before they sold Bale. There was a 3-year period where they sold their best players and then used that money to bring in other better players to grow the squad, not primarily the team. Obviously, we've never gone down that road with Gold and Sullivan. They don't understand that mentality. So they prefer to go out and spend 25 million on a 28-year-old. But that's okay. But when he comes to leave the club, he's leaving for next to nothing. Yeah, or you gamble on a player. Our 2 biggest signings, transfer fees before this season, were Haller and Anderson. And look at what we recouped when we sold them. You know, an eye on the pair cost us 80 million quid, I think, or 70 million quid. And we couped about 22 when we sold them. And all in the space of 2 years, by the way. So, you know, there's so many factors as for me why we're now going through this transition period. And you've got to allow the man time. I know it's hard to say. The funny thing is, the average lifespan of a Premier League manager, believe it or not, is around 770 days. Moyes has clocked up 1,000 at West Ham. So he's already bucking that trend. So, but
let me
what do we want? One thing I'll finish is, and this is the thing, when people talk about league position, take a look at the top 7. The top 7's done now. It's took 11 games for the top 7 order to be sorted. All they've got to do now is jig about who's going to finish where. Because Newcastle are 7th. Liverpool are 7th. I think Newcastle are 6th. And then you've got Man United, Chelsea. Look what's happened. So what is the point?
Hang on.
Hold on, let me finish. What is the point of finishing 8th? What is the point? What do you get for finishing?
We don't get anything for that, so you might as well go.
So let's try and win a frigging cup. And this.
But don't you think that maybe, you know, that even though it looks like that top 7 is likely to stay as it is, there is the opportunity. There's always a team that sort of starts faltering at the top. There's always a team that sort of starts faltering in mid-table and bombs and could get relegated, etc. There's a long, long way to go yet, isn't there? I mean, surely that top 7 is not going to stay as that top 7 for the rest of the season.
What are we? We're not even a third of the way through the season.
No, yeah.
So we're approaching a third of the way for the season. So the thing is, this is a skew-whiff season as well because we're playing game after game. I think Moyes had come out. I don't know if it was an excuse of people think we've played more games than anybody else in the Premier League when you throw in Europe. Now, you could argue that if our players have played more games, it's because he's picked them. But at the end of the day, I'll back him because the most important thing is to win the group. Because by winning the group in Europe, we don't play those two extra games of the drop downs from the Europa League. So you avoid that.
Here's a question from Darren. We needed a manager to come in and bring stability. Moyes did that. Now we have that stability. We need to take the next step and employ a manager that will take it. This is the question I keep asking, though, Darren. What is the next level for West Ham? What are people's expectations? I agree with you, Alf, because for me, and I think we've said it before, in order to maintain a top 6, sort of trying to get into that top 6, forget the top 4, just trying to get into that top 6. You've got to spend money, like serious money, every season for maybe 4 or 5 seasons in a row before you can try and even break into that. So, Darren, I respect that comment, but this is what I keep asking. I keep asking the question: what do people expect? Where do people expect West Ham to be? Do we think a fan started to believe that we're a top 4 team, or a fan started to believe that we should be automatically a top 6 team? Nigel, you just mentioned Newcastle. You know, they spent money. Aston Villa has spent money. A number of teams that are striving to get into the top 6 has spent serious money. So it's not just us. We don't have that given right just because we spent £150 million in the transfer window to be top 6, do we?
Yeah, but let's just go back a little bit, two steps back to Aston Villa, right? Steven Gerrard. Let's just think about the 3 top signings that he made in the summer. And guess what? They all got injured. So he's having to revert back to the players that he didn't really want in that team, right? And that's why they've struggled. If you revert back to when Pellegrini came in and he started buying all these players, or even Bilic when the first season at the London Stadium, and there's lots of issues around that, of course. But it started buying players that were kind of flair or reputation or stuff like that. But they're not really suited. They didn't really gel into the team. And also, there wasn't a good mix of strength. Good old British players, Brexit players, whatever you want to call them. You know, you need that mix, that combination of strength players, hard-working players, and flair players. When Moyes came in, first time around, he just sort of steadied the ship, really. The second time around, he started buying or getting those players that were hard-working, had a little bit of flair, and then we started building on from that. And this is the only thing I would say about Moyes now with the signings that we've made. Are we starting to move away slightly from those really hard-working players and the balance is going a bit more towards flair and not enough hard-working? And that's where we're struggling a little bit. That's the only thing I would say.
I think for that, I think Moyes will always want his hard-working players in there. And I think many people are arguing that maybe he plays too many of them. I think that's, when it comes to the argument of players like Benrahma over Fornals, for example, I won't lie. I looked at that team on Wednesday and I thought, it's a pretty decent team. I was quite happy that Downs was in it. But then I did look at the attack and think maybe that should have been a game for Benrahma, to have more of the attacking player, the more flair players, because he has bought those flair players. It was unfortunate that Paquetá was injured. Maybe he could have made quite a difference on Wednesday. We won't know. But I think you might be right there, Ralph. Maybe he is moving away from bringing in, he's got, look at the summer transfer window, Scamacca, Paquetá, etc. These are pretty decent attack-minded players, aren't they? But I think he will always go and he would always want his core of hard-working players in there. I don't know.
The thing is, Nigel, and both of you really, and anybody who's listening here, Monday night, right? Okay, what sort of team, what sort of players do we want to play against Bournemouth? And this is what in my mind, I think, I know exactly the kind of players that we need to be playing against Bournemouth. And this is where I look at Moyes and I think, right, are you making the right decisions? And maybe this is where some of the fans are questioning Moyes' decisions or whether he's the right manager for us in, sort of long term. Is he going game to game and he's saying, right, what is the opposition? Are we going to match them and beat them as a unit, or are we just going to play our game and kind of Man City them? We're just going to play our game and we're just going to blow them out of the water. For my mind, we're not that team. We're not that skilled. We're not that quality that we can just face any opposition and play our game and just blow them out of the water. We need to still match the opposition. And I think sometimes you think, well, we've got the likes of Benrahma. I don't see him as a strength player. I don't see Lanzini as a strength player. I don't see Paquetá as a strength player.
When you say a strength player, you mean a sort of a more
hard-working,
defensive-minded.
I see Fornals as that kind of player, but I don't see the other three. Scamacca, I don't see as that kind of player either, although I see him as a willing participant, but I don't see him as a strength kind of player. Bowen, definitely I see as that kind of player. So this is where my mindset is. I think, what kind of players are we going to play against a team like Bournemouth? Where they're going to come at us, they're going to come at us strong, and any other team that are in and around us. And Bournemouth have been doing well this season. Let's not forget about it. They've come up, but they're doing really well. And we could
after they sacked their manager.
Yeah, well, yeah, but isn't that always the way? But I think it's always a balance, and Moyes is always fighting that balance. And I think some of the fans, the complaints, let's say, is that he doesn't always get it right according to the opposition that we're playing. And sometimes, dare I say it, it's sometimes about winning ugly. And you've seen it, that we come out of a game and we haven't deserved to win, or we haven't deserved to get a point, and guess what? We're all grinning like Cheshire cats, and we're all thinking, do you know what? Yes, we got a result there. But other times when we lose, but we've put on a really good performance, or we've got a decent result, there's that section of the fan base who's thinking, God, we didn't do well enough, we set up wrong, you know, we were poor, this, left, right, and centre. It's just like, well, hold on a minute. You know, sometimes we ride our luck, and sometimes we're just on the wrong side of the luck.
People get hung up on where we are in the league and how far above. I've seen it in the comments. Yeah. So if you want to look down to the bottom three or bottom, and the one thing I always say is you got to look up as well, the same amount. Now we're 2 points outside the bottom three. Yeah, we're 2 points off 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing about a league season as well is you got to play everyone twice. So, and we've had a mixed start. I don't think we've had a difficult start. We've had a mixed start. And when I say mixed, I mean, you know, by the caliber of the teams that we've played. So we've played Liverpool, we've just seen. We've played Man City. So we've got Man United to come. Unfortunately, seem to be in a bit of form. So, you know, there are disappointments. The defeats to Forest is a disappointment, or the result is a disappointment. But if you take that performance, you know, you play that game 9 times out of 10, we win. We don't draw, we win that game. So, Aston Villa, I think, as well, wasn't great, was it? You know,
no, yeah, it was.
So,
it
but
wasn't.
there's a lot of teams. The Premier League,
as Ralph said, you know, against Villa, we went out there and ground out a result.
But
you
the
know,
Premier League's very even. It just shows you how tight it is. If you look at, we're 5 points above the bottom team, but then we're 5 points away from being 8th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and this is the thing, it's still that early in the season that there's still teams that we got to play. Realistically, the best time to sit here and dissect it for me is when the World Cup's on.
Yeah.
That for me is, you know, there are people, you know, people I know quite well, very well. I do like them, but still, that's my fault. That will say that with the World Cup, if we're loitering around the bottom three with Arsenal on Boxing Day and Brentford to come up on New Year's Eve, that it's possible that Moyes should go then. Now, I don't know. I don't know what the club does if we're bottom three, January the 1st.
I think we kind of discussed this before, and I think we kind of said, and even I've said it. If we're down near the relegation zone by the World Cup, then I think maybe that's the time when a change might have to be made. But I don't think we're going to be anywhere near there, to be quite honest with you. You know, and I do get people saying that Moyes is a boring manager, etc., etc. But I think it's what you said, Alf. You know, do we go out and match this? You know, do we get the first thing on Moyes' mind is don't lose a game. And I know many people will turn around and don't concede. And I know many people will turn around and go, well, hang on a minute, that's not working well. But then other people have been saying, let's not forget, we've had a similar injury crisis, weirdly enough, to what we had this time last season. I think I was corrected when we didn't just lose Zuma, we also lost off Bonner as well.
Same game, Chelsea. Same
game. And we've got that at the moment. You know, ironic, you know, we were talking at the beginning of the season going, we've got 5 central defenders. Why do we need 5? And at the moment, we've only got...
Ain't enough.
Ain't enough. You know, so I don't... And I think, all things considered, I think that there has been... We started the season off badly, and many people will argue, let's not forget, we just carried on from where we left off last season. But I think there is slow but steady progress. And we're not getting, you know, when we look at some of the results, and I know I'm going right back to the beginning of the season, Nottingham Forest, very unlucky, missed penalty against Forest. You know, Chelsea, we were unlucky because of VAR. Well, Liverpool, we gave them a game, we were unlucky.
Quickly, yeah. Those 2 penalties go in, give us 2 points. I'll tell you exactly where we'd be, yeah? 11th.
There you go.
I'll just double check that quickly.
I think
And that's the
13
fine
points,
margins.
yeah.
That's the fine margins that we're playing on.
We'd be 12th or 11th. We'd have the same goal difference, -1, as Crystal Palace, who are sitting 11th, and the same amount of points.
Yeah.
Those two penalties. Who do you blame for the penalties? Should we sack Moyes because they miss penalties?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you talked about the stats earlier on. 60 shots, I think we had in the previous 3 games, or whatever number it was, the highest number of shots
in
of all Premier League teams. Yeah. And yet people are saying that we're defensive minded and boring. And yet we are creating chances. It will. My gut tells me it will finally click. There will come a point where it will click, and it might start from Monday. Where it will start clicking, and all of a sudden the points will just start picking up. Yeah. And I think we could be on when we got Man United. Sorry, we got Bournemouth, and then we got Silkeborg, and then Man United. And I think we might start seeing the points sort of between now and the World Cup coming. We might be a lot higher up the league than people think. I think it will click. I think we've got the players to make it click. A lot of people will argue we haven't got the manager to make it click. But my argument is that Moyes has done wonders for the club. And we talked about sort of credit in the bank. He's built up an awful lot of credit in the bank, and I think he's the worst thing for us. I'm sure you remember, Nigel. It was only a few weeks ago that people were crying out for Moyes to be sacked. Do it now. In the last international window.
Well,
after
the first 6 games, we had 4 points. So we've got 7 points in the next 5. So if you get another 7 points in the next 5 games, that's still not a fantastic return. Yeah. But the thing what we're seeing this season as well is a lot of teams are beating each other. No one's cut adrift. As the fact is that we are only 5 points off the team that's rock bottom, but 2 points above the team that's 19th. Shows the bunching. But what it shows is how the Premier League money levels the playing field outside of the big boys.
I want to address this, Jonathan. Yeah. You make a good point. No point creating chances if we're booting it over the bar, wide, goalkeeper saves it, hitting defenders. Is that Moyes' fault?
But I don't understand that. There's no point creating chances.
If they don't go in, basically.
Well, you got to create the chances, for them to go in. So
this is it, and this is
the whole point is about creating chances.
But this is exactly the point.
Sorry, mate. No, sorry. The whole point is, from a fan base point of view, it's results. It's about winning. And that's what it is.
Yeah, but how do you win a game? By scoring goals? How do you score goals? By creating chances.
If we create 1 chance and score, right, or we create 15 chances and don't score, we won. It's 1 goal. That's all that matters. So the wider fan base will say, or the wider footballing appreciation society will say, 1 goal, they won 1-0, boring, West Ham. That's it. That's all that matters. But it's 3 points. Tick.
Wasn't there a time when fans were saying, if we, so long as we play well, and we lose, we don't mind, so long as but the players are putting the effort in, aren't they?
Look, that was one of the things I used to say under Allardyce. A former West Ham podcast host who's actually now the half-time interviewer at West Ham, Chris Skull, after he bumped into me after the Bournemouth game in 2015, we lost 4-3. And he went, I hope you're happy. And I went, I'm bloody happy, mate. We won the second half. Didn't you just see a good game of football? Now, the difference with that is, before that Bournemouth game is that we'd beat Arsenal away and we'd beat Liverpool away, I believe. Yeah, so we sort of had points in the bag. You can enjoy that entertaining football. I see, again, you've put that up. That stopped me. Moyes' fault. If the finishing is poor, That is not Moyes' fault.
It's
If
not
the
Moyes'
finishing's
fault.
poor, Moyes sets the players up to create the chances. If we weren't creating chances, then the tactics are wrong. If you're creating 24 shots on goal in one game, 60 in 3 games, which is more than any other team in the Premier League over the same 3 games, that ain't the manager's fault. It's the god-awful shooting of the players. Now, you could say, well, the manager's actually bought those players or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, these are all players that individually, you'll find someone goes, I like him. Skamaka, yeah, he's decent. You know, Rice, we all know. 4 nails, I don't mind him. Bowen, yes. Antonio, yes. You know, so actually, that is not Moyes' fault. As John says,
And John's just said it there.
train the players. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're absolutely right. The thing in other walks of life, you're a manager, right? You're a boss of a business, and you've got your employees, and you expect them to do a certain task, don't you? And if they don't do the task, you either sack them or give them retraining or whatever. And if they don't do it, you know, you're going to get rid of them and get somebody else in. But
but ain't like that in football, though.
No, exactly.
You know,
that's my point. That's my point. You've in the other world, as it were, you've got infinite
in the West Ham
resources.
rose-tinted glasses world.
In a football team, you've got 22, 23 players or whatever it is. That's it. That's it. You've signed up to those 23 players, that squad of players. That's all you got. So whether they perform or not, that's it. You know. So
Keith, if Moyes wants to sign players who miss and can't run, then I'm available. I think we all are.
Well, yeah.
No, but you got an absolutely good point there, Alf. I mean, it's, you know, and as John pointed out, you know, you're not setting your team up to miss, are you?
No
chances. You know, it's like, and how can the minute those players go over the line, you know, if they, I think what would be worse for me is if we weren't creating the chances. The fact that we're creating the chances demonstrates that the tactics must be right. And that's why I said a moment ago, I think this will eventually all fall into place. It will fall into place because the number of, I would be a lot more worried, and I'd think I'd be on that, I might even be on that Moyes bandwagon, Moyes out bandwagon, if we weren't creating chances. The thing is that we are. You know, the fact that our finishing is atrocious,
right,
as you guys have said, is
Ralph,
not Moyes' fault.
Who's really enjoying the sun, might have had a bit of sunstroke, but anyway, says he wants an answer.
Hey?
Is
Who?
Moyes the guy, to get top 6?
Well, he has.
Yes, he is.
He already has.
Top two. No, top 6, definitely. He is the right person. Okay, next question.
I don't think he is.
Do you not?
Okay,
no.
On a given
he's done
season,
it.
he is.
He's done it.
On every season, no, he's not. But on a given season, he is. But that's not his fault. That's a club that we are. You know,
I'm happy. The thing is, I'm happy with that. I can, you know, perhaps, you know, I don't know. You know, people can level with me what they want. I'm more than happy with that, you know. But as long, you know, and a good cut run for me is a semi-final. So, you know, I was proud of what we achieved last season.
Look, when Moyes first came in, I had my massive doubts, and I made it perfectly clear on lots of different places that, you know, I had massive doubts. But I was one of those converted fans that thought, hold on a minute, he's doing all right here. By the end of that first season, I thought he's kept us up. Fair play to you. Did all right. Then he came in the second time, and I was bitching and moaning the second time about, you know, substitutions and all that sort of stuff. And then he eventually started to listen to me, and he was listening to me, and he was making his decisions, and he's making his substitutions. But the point I'm trying to make is, right, that he's grown as a manager, and he's grown on me, and I would wager grown on most fans, grown the West Ham fans, this is, as being the manager for us, right? However, I look at games, virtually every game now, and I don't see, whether I'm at the stadium or watching TV or a live stream, whatever, because I'm working or whatever, I don't see most of the games when we lose being a Moyes problem. I see it that we're making individual mistakes, passing errors, How many times are we losing the ball in possession? All that sort of stuff. And that's down to individual players rather than the tactics at the time. And I've seen Moyes, which you've never had before. A few games ago, he's changing. He's making substitutions at half time. He's regularly making substitutions at 60 minutes where he wasn't doing that before. And, so I think there's a lot of things that people are missing in Moyes, the way he's changed as a manager during his time in charge of us. And I think now it's down to the players that we've got, quality, whether they've settled into the Premier League, the pace of the Premier League, and whether it's just not working out for them right now. Misplaced passes, Paqueta not really linking up with the other players, in terms of mindsets and everything like that. Scamacca, some of the balls that Scamacca has been, receiving and then feeding off to other players has just been absolutely outstanding. He puts like a 30-yard cross-field ball to Kufal, and then he completely messes it up. Mm-hmm. So whose fault is that? The Scamacca has received the ball, blindside pass, right to the other side of the wing, and then Kufal just completely messes up in crossing the ball. That's not Scamacca's fault. He's done a brilliant job. So it's about players linking up with each other, gelling with each other.
This is why I asked the question. This is why I asked the question earlier on about the players that we've had from last season to the players that we've now brought in. Are the players that we brought in on that different level where they should be better than what we've already had? So does that mean that the players that we've had, like the Fornals and the Soufals, etc., are they now playing catch up to the 8 players that we bought, or most of the players that we bought in? It's a serious question, because it's like when you buy players, you're meant to be buying players to either replace someone that needs replacing or to improve basically. So if we bought the likes of Scamacca in, the likes of Paqueta in, and all that sort of stuff, does that mean the players that we already had, like Fornals and Soufal, etc., are they on the same level in terms of quality to what we brought in? Do we now need to look at that squad and start thinking about improving it again, probably in January rather than waiting until the summer? Or is it all going to gel over the next sort of coming games? And then, as I said, we start improving on our performances, improving on our, the wins, etc. Is that a reality? Is the team that we had last season not as good as the squad, as the players that we bought this summer?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a disparity there right now. I think that you're right in many ways on what you said. It's we've got players there that are not matching the quality of the players that we've brought in, and you like the looks of, whereas you like the honesty. There's a difference between flair and talent and honesty. So I put Fornals in the honesty category.
Yeah,
he's a good, honest, hardworking. Wears West Ham on his, over his heart. He's his social media. He loves West Ham, right? Same with Soufal loves West Ham, right? But they're honest players now, but they're not high quality. That level as Paqueta and Scamacca, I would say, and the Rice, of course, and those kind of players. So we do have a disparity in our players' quality, but I still think there's an ability to have a nice mix of players. Possibly, Kufala's the weak link on the right hand side. Emerson in for Krez. And I'm not sure about Ben Rama in terms of being consistent enough. Lanzini for Europa Conference, I would say, decent bet, but not for the Premier League. So there's lots of players who you could sort of point the finger at and say, you're good in this situation, but you're not good in that situation. You're good in that formation, but not in that. And I think, this is why we're not football managers, right? Because you'd want to be David Moyes right now, because it's a difficult task.
What do you think, Nigel? The players from last season, are they letting down the players that we've now brought in?
No, not at all. You know, you got to revolve the team.
Mhm.
You know, look at Forest and what they've done. They thought they could go and buy a new squad, let alone a team, and they're finding that. And individually, if you look at some of those players, you probably would think, do you know what? I'd have him.
Yeah.
You know, Chiari was a great player for us. I was disappointed when he left. Lingard, we saw what he could do. And I'm not saying that these players, you know, obviously they're over the or whatever, but they've brought in Aurora, is it? Who was at Tottenham. They've brought in 20 odd players, and they don't matter what combination they use, they can't get what. But why is that? Because you got to have a way of playing that comes sometimes from familiarity.
And
now,
you've
the way
hit the
you
nub
do
there.
that, yeah, is that sometimes the best teams we've had in the past have come from teams that have been together 2-3 years playing together
Exactly
because
right.
they understand each other.
And when Moyes says things like it takes time to bed these players in,
it does.
And that's a reality. That's not just him talking bollocks, is it? It's a reality.
Do you know? I think Scamacca's done. And actually, if you look at it, Scamacca to come in. The funny thing is, if you look at it, is that what's he got? 6 goals, yeah, but only 2 in the Premier League. Now he's appeared in all 11 games in the Premier League.
Yeah, but mostly as bit part.
Yes, at some point he may not have started.
He missed 2 games through illness.
Did he? I thought he'd been on or appeared as a sub in at least every game.
I'm not sure.
But even so, he's come on as most of those games as a sub.
The funny thing now is with Antonio there was no sub really for him last season, so he played every game. Yeah. Now we've got him playing, and I think Antonio's got as many goals in the Premier League as Scamacca has. Yeah,
but that's competition.
Yeah, that is competition. But if I'm truthful, am I worried this season? The one thing that worries me is the amount of goals we've scored. Considering we got 3 of them in one game, to score 9 goals in 11 games, that is a bad return. Now, in a way, we're lucky that we're actually, and funny enough, it highlights. We're looking at our defence. Well, the reason why we're looking at defence is because we ain't scoring enough goals.
We ain't scoring enough goals.
Yeah. So we're losing games 1-0, 2-0, tight games, but we're still losing
because we're not scoring.
Yeah. Look at Leicester City. Now Leicester are now 2 points behind us, and I think Leicester have scored 20 goals, 24 goals. Over double what we've done anyway.
Yeah.
But then they've conceded that amount. They've outscored us, but by far they've conceded. They might have conceded double than what we got. So it's a tough scenario, and this is why I can't take the people when they want to sack a manager after 7, 8, 10, 11 games, or whatever, because there's no allowances that we are transitioning this team. And we're trying to do it while playing European football. And
that's the other issue that a lot of people maybe seem to have missed. The fact that it is a trend. I mean, even Moyes said it at the beginning of the season, even before the transfer window, this is going to be a season of transition. And when you talk about a season of transition, that means you need time for that transition to happen. It doesn't happen overnight, does it? You do need time to sort of bed in the players. Look, he started. Maybe people don't like the fact that he started him. After how many games? 11 games or whatever. He started Downs against Liverpool. On Wednesday, he started to play Scamacca more than he has Antonio, even when he's had Antonio available. Paquetá has been in the team almost from the start. He puts Emerson in and out the team, etc. So it's not as if he's not playing these new players, is it now? He's been using them. He's been using them throughout the season, whether they played in Europe or whether they play in the Premier League. everyone is having game time. No, so doesn't that demonstrate that Moyes is using the squad he's got?
Well, yeah, but he's got to use the squad. But then again, as he came out and said, nobody in the Premier League has played as many games as we have this season because of the European games we played. So we've played 6 games in Europe and 11 games in the Premier League, and we're not even into November yet. We're condensing so much football into a short period of time. Like player fatigue, player injuries. There's going to be players that will not go to the World Cup and they'll be injured in the next few weeks, purely actually because we are playing every weekend, midweek. I mean, we got the mad situation, and they would never do this. The Premier League would never do this to Arsenal or to Man United. They would never make them play on a Monday night and a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this part of the season. Wouldn't happen.
Here's a comment from Andy. Lesson to be learned in this transfer window: get your business done early. Bringing in 8 players, etc. Paquetá joined at the end of August. Now, we've heard from both Rob Newman, the head of scouting, and from David Moyes about the number of players that we've gone for. And Moyes made a joke, didn't he, about if only you knew the names of the players or the number of players that we've been after. There's a myth, isn't there, about our transfer window that we seem to wait until the last minute to buy players. It's not as if it seems to imply that we're literally waiting until the last week to buy players, which is not the case, is it? I read an article from Rob Newman about how they've already started looking at players, not only for January, but for next summer. They've already started that process of looking at players, scouting players, etc., putting names forward, etc. So, is Andy right, or is it, or is he's right in the sense that we did, sign Paquetá at the end of August, etc. But that's not through intention, is it? We're not sitting there twiddling our thumbs waiting for players to come in at the last moment.
What people fail to realise is that the transfer market is controlled by agents. It's not in the agent's best interest to move his player early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is in the agent's best interest is to have late deals done, because that's when you get the panic. It's when people will overspend, and it's also when you might get 2 clubs after the same player and a little bit of a bidding war comes in. There's no value in those that control the transfer market in moving a player early. It's not the way it works. It's easy for fans to sit here and go, why didn't we sign him in July? Well, the bloke didn't want to leave the club he was at in July because he wanted to see if a better offer. If when you're selling your house and that it's going up to auction in 8 weeks' time, you're not going to sell it to the first bidder that bids, are you? In the first week, you're going to sit and wait to see if you get a better offer. That's exactly.
Depends what the bid is. Depends what the bid is, though, doesn't it?
But do you not still wait? Because but in the transfer market, there's a good chance that bid will still sit there. It's not
you take the likes of Lingard, right? The likes of Lingard, everybody's thinking, even the manager, and Stuart Pearce the other day was on the radio talking about this. He said couldn't understand why Lingard didn't want to come to us, and then he conceded, well, it's other factors. It's going to be money or something like that. And basically, what is it? What is it that a player doesn't want to come to West Ham, or we can't get a signing where loads of other teams are getting their signings really early? And it's going to be a
Forest did their signings early.
Sorry?
Villa did their signings early. Do you know?
That's what I mean.
Villa did their signings very early.
How many West Ham fans were going, look at Villa, look at the signings there, mate.
Look at Villa.
Yeah. Look at
exactly.
Villa.
So it just depends. It depends what kind of players, what negotiations have been going ongoing, and if those players want to come to you in the first place, and how much you're willing to pay. It's a very complicated process, but could we improve it? Could we get our players earlier? Yeah, of course we could. But it all comes down to, do those players want to come to us in the first place?
I'll tell you how you get the players to sign earlier. You become a better team. Yeah, because the truth is, we've just signed these players off of the back of finishing 6th and 7th for being in Europe and going to the European Cup semi-final.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or the Europa League semi-final. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where there is a danger that if you finish, 13, 12, and we get knocked out in the round of 16 of the Europa Conference League, so we've got no European football next season. There's even more pressure then, because though the players that you were looking to kick you on are going to be looking at West Ham and thinking, I like to look at Brentford madly, but let's just say that or it's Brighton, that whoever is the team that is there, and I pointed it. People may see this as a defeatist attitude or whatever, but there are now 7 clubs. There are 7 teams in this league whose finances blow the rest of the league out of the water. Only 4 of them will finish in the Champions League. We've got 6 clubs.
3 are going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, we've got 6 clubs whose owners demand Champions League football to their managers at the start of the season, and by rule of the league, 2 of those owners are going to be frigging pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you made a point about.
Just think about this: in a few years' time, when all the rich billionaires come out of the woodwork, and every single club in the league, 20 clubs, are all owned by multi-billionaires, right? And what will they accept then? Because everybody, every club, every owner will be expecting to win every game 5-0, right? And right now,
imagine the 3 billionaires who will be relegated.
There was 1 club, and then there was 2 clubs, and there's 3 clubs. So now you're saying there's 7 clubs. In a few years' time, guess what? A few more billionaires in the Premier League.
I'll tell you what you want to worry about. Yeah. All it needs is 4 more Americans to buy a Premier League club.
And then we'll be playing football in
New York. And then
the
Americans could band themselves together and change the rules to do whatever they like in the Premier League.
Yeah. Oh, well, they're trying to do it.
Personally, the Super League, it's getting to the point where the Super League, let them go do it.
Yeah,
and it is extreme and everything, but if we've already got a Super League in this country, we have already got that.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to where we go from here, because there's still the bandwagon of Moyes out, because they're saying that he doesn't play attractive football. He's killing the club. In his style of football, etc. Where do we go between now and the time where do you think we're going to be between now and the time that the World Cup comes?
We've got 4 games. So quickly off the top of my head, Bournemouth, Man United, Crystal Palace. Oh, is it Leicester? I can't remember I think it is. 9 points up for grab out of 12 target. 7, I'd be happy with. 7 out of those 4 games, 7 points. 6 palatable, less than 6. We're playing into the hands of claret and booze.
Look, put up that comment, Moyes out. And here's the question: why? Why Moyes out? Why Moyes out? That's the question I'm asking. Why Moyes out?
I can't answer that for you. I wonder if Flamer can.
I'm asking Flamer, what was the 1977? Why? Why Moyes out? Why? What's your just? It's all well and good coming on a forum, coming on and saying, yeah, Moyes out, Moyes out. You're shouting, from your seat or whatever, saying Moyes out. But why? What are you expecting? Boring. Why is it boring? In what way? You're saying that the game against Liverpool was boring?
Well, this is what I said earlier on. I thought it was quite an I know, Nigel, you didn't agree, but I thought it was quite an entertaining. I thought we played really well. You know, I thought we did exceptionally well. What was disappointing for me is that I was worried because we missed our golden chance, you know, to equalise just before half time. And what really surprised me, as I said earlier, is the fact that even though we missed that golden opportunity, we came out in the second half and fought, and that was really
I weren't boring, but what I said was still is I don't think we played entertaining football.
Oh yeah, you said it. Yeah. Oh, I said entertaining.
I don't think we play boring football. But
we're still full of a lot of mistakes. We're still making too many mistakes.
You know,
losing the ball too early, and
not to play into their hands. I can see it when you set up with that many defensive-minded players that there is going to be a stifleness. Now, a lot of people complain at the moment how we're slow starters and in the first half we don't do this, you know. But you don't win the game in 45 minutes. You could bloody lose it, to be honest. But you don't generally win the game in the first 45 minutes. So if we've only had one shot in the first 45 minutes, I don't bloody care. It's what we've done after 90 minutes, because football's at the moment. Football seems to be an 100-minute game, but that's a by the by. But it's a 90-minute game, and that's realistically all I care about. And I can see the mentality and the theory behind it of keeping it tight, don't concede, stay in the game, win it in the second half. Now, that is not entertaining football, but it's a functional. And if we played like that in the league, if we just collected points, and then really went for cups all day long, and this is the thing, you know.
I want to address two points. Trod is saying that I found it good that when we used to play counter-attacking football, now we're not playing a counter-attacking football, but that's because teams have sussed us out, and that's why we're not playing counter-attack. We're not able, because teams are sort of shaping up. I mean, they're respecting West Ham United and shaping up differently from us. You know,
well, I don't know if it's respecting this. What I would say is they've sussed us out.
Or they've sussed it. I'm trying to be nice, but all right, so they've sussed us out. But a lot of people have said this against Liverpool. Where were the 8 defensive players that I didn't see?
Oh, well, look, I'll tell you where they are, and this is the thing, I can do it. And so you got your back 4, then you've got Rice defensive midfielder, Souček defensive midfielder, you've got Flynn Downs defensive midfielder, and then we throw in the functionality, and this is perhaps where it's borderline, of Fornals, who I don't see as a defensive midfielder, but
the way he's asked to play.
The way he's asked to play.
Right.
Okay. So therefore,
I can counteract that with 8 offensive players, and we would have got wiped 10-0. Quite easy. Quite easy. That is the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life. 8 defensive players, because we need 8 defensive players.
No, it's not ridiculous.
We need 8 defensive players against a quality side.
That's the thing. But what I'm saying is you can't call it ridiculous, because that was the players on the pitch. And when you're looking at it on paper, and this is what I'm saying, is this is how you're studying that when you make that. You're looking at it on paper. I can see the point they make when they go, well, there's 8 defensive-minded players, because straight away you got 7, and the only one we really argue about is Fornals. But then we've all been saying that he's been asked to do a more, defensive role
in order to cover for Creswell.
Yeah, but hold on a minute, right? So let's say if I go up against a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or whatever, right? Any kind of flair team that's historically been great, right? What do I go toe-to-toe with them? Or do I try and counteract, or do I nullify their strengths and weaknesses? Do I say against Messi, and I say, right, okay, when Messi was playing for them, I say, right, stop Messi playing. Stop Xavi playing. Stop Iniesta playing. whatever we do, stop them three playing. Stop the midfield from getting that ball, controlling the game. If you're playing the Juventus, stop Pirlo playing. Stop that, stop the metronomic feel of the game. So whatever you do, whatever team you're playing against, you've got to set up against them. And if they're better than you, they're quality better than you. You've got to stop them. And then that could be a defensive attitude.
Look, it is about mentality, and it's what you could think. We lost 2-0 against Man City at the start of the season. Now, actually, looking at it, bloody damn fine result.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration,
how they've smashed other teams.
When we first went into that stadium, after the first 5 times of playing them in that stadium, they were averaging 4.5 goals a game against us. Yeah. So actually, only losing.
I went to every single one of them.
No, that's what I'm saying, Alf. We had the 5-0 in the cup, we had 4-0 in the league, and then there was another 5-0, and then there was another 4-0. And
I'm taking my lad to the game, thinking, just get ready for a fiver today.
So it was outstanding last season. We got a point against Man City. That was like a win.
We should have beaten them as well. We should have beaten them as well.
Yeah, we should have done. I think we got robbed, but we had the 2-2 draw, didn't we? Sorry, not we had the 2-2 draw, and we were 2-0 up, were we not? So
we were
in the last game of the
season. It's we kept Haaland down to 1 goal. What an achievement that was. But
what a play.
If we'd have gone, and I get it, if we'd have gone out and tried to go at them and do what people want, play exciting, attacking football, we'd have ended up on the idings that some of them got.
Yeah.
But what I will say, though, is in the defence of those saying that, is we achieved the same amount of points as the teams that lost 5-0.
Yeah.
So what you, and this is where it comes back to is that frankly, well, I can point, and it's easy to think, I can go back. One of the best games of football I really enjoyed at Upton Park. We lost 5-1 to Leeds United. And I said this the other day somewhere. We had 3 players sent off. The game had everything. We were 2-1 down with 9 players, and we were still attacking, trying to score goals. Now, we shipped him like another 3 afterwards or whatever. But what a game of football that was. And I walked out of there, we'd lost 5-1, and I was frigging happy.
Yeah.
So this goes back to the question at the start then, Nigel, is, should we just be going for it? And if we lose, we lose, but at least we're entertaining.
Yeah, but we could do that because we were sitting, 7th at the time in the table still. Perhaps if we were sitting...
So if we do that now, we might get relegated.
No, and you can play a certain way when you're in a certain position in the league. You can go out and go gung ho and throw caution to the wind if you're sitting 7th in the table. If you're in the quarterfinal of a cup competition, you're going against one of the big boys and you've got nothing to lose. But then there are people, and I can understand their point of view, that, well, why don't you do that anyway and see what happens? But the problem you got is that because of the way the league gets very concertinaed, especially this time of year, goal difference makes all the difference as well. And
let me ask you a question, right? At the end of the season, right? We finish, I don't know, 11th, 12th in the league, right? We get knocked out early in the League Cup, the FA Cup, and we get knocked out in March because we're already through to March in the Europa Conference, right?
Yeah.
We get knocked out first game there. Does Moyes go at the end of the season? So pretty much, we failed in Europe, we failed in the cups, and we've failed in the league. We're mid-table obscurity.
I'd like to see what Moyes does with this squad, and plus more players that he's going to have to bring in next season as well, because
he's earned a bad season.
Yeah.
And I can caveat that. Sorry, quickly. Yeah, he's at Everton. He went in, stabilised them. Yeah, took them the 2 top 10 finishes, then finished 17th.
Just
After that
relegation.
17th position, yeah, in his 3rd season with Everton, they never finished below 11th.
See, that's why we love you, Nigel, because it's research. All about research,
Yeah.
mate.
So
all about
actually,
research.
if you,
He's gone on Wikipedia, everybody, and he's done his research.
Can Moyes, can Moyes, can Moyes do it? Yes, he can, possibly. Can we prove he's done it? Well, actually, yes, we can. So I'll give him this one season to finish 15th, 16th, have a good cup run. But next season, if he starts next season, like this season, and everything else, then you got to start questioning.
Yeah,
is it true? Is it true that in 1.5 seasons Europe, Moyes has won more European away games than Greenwood and Lowell combined? Yes, but he's played more games.
But on average, what's the ratio?
Are false statistics. They're false statistics these days.
Well, basically, especially under John Lowell, we lost in the 75-76 Cup run. 75-76 European Cup Winners' Cup run. We predominantly lost the away games, but won the home games. Where if you think Moyes' record away from home in Europe is pretty strong with West Ham.
Yeah, no, we've done well in Europe. But I say to my original point, we're just a better quality side against all the rest of the teams in the Conference League.
Will we win that competition, Alf?
I think we've got an incredibly good chance of winning it. Yeah.
I agree. Howard, did the Bin Dippers end the game with 7 defensive players on the pitch taking the ball into the corners?
Well,
I mean, we talk about we had 8 defensive players on the pitch.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the bloke that saved them was James Milner, and James Milner's a defender at the moment. Yeah,
he's 102 years old, by the way.
He came on and played as a defender. He brought defenders on.
Yeah.
He took off Firmino. Didn't bring another striker on.
The tide.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
This is an interesting comment.
Oh dear!
Fucking. He's turned.
I didn't write it.
Look, he'll know I've said this before because I've asked him directly. But the thing I'd say to these people is that 20 years ago, we used to look at Spurs fans behaving in the way that some of our fans are behaving, and go, "Thank Christ, we're not like them."
And
well, it took 20 years. Yeah, it's took 20 years.
Yeah, but Nigel, we're all a bit long in the tooth now, us lot. Times have changed.
The difference is the only way we heard them. Media's
taken over.
The difference was that Spurs fans all used to ring up BBC 606. Yeah, so that was the only way we could just go
606.
You should just turn on. Oh fuck me, another Spurs fan moaning because they're sitting 10th in the table. Click.
I'm gonna give Nick another comment. We deserve a bad season. What if the season is bad enough to get relegated?
Well, look.
Do you think there's any remote chance that we are going to get relegated? Well, I guess there's always a chance. But,
and this is the thing: you can't poo-poo that idea because, as I always do, we can point all the way back, to 2003, and a team that got
we're too good to go down
with 7 international players in the team.
Too good to go down. Yeah, but no, we won't go down. We won't go down.
Lee asks, the question is, Nigel, on a whole, do our fan base want Moyes to make us succeed? Because if they don't, what's the point? It only makes our team worse, i.e. social media. Soufal as an example.
Listen, it's a vocal minority, and that's what they are.
It is, isn't it? We got to remember that. Social media, it doesn't speak for all the fans.
No, and look, we're social media. And let's get it. This is by far a minority. Yeah, there's 50,000 West Ham fans going week in, week out. There's 3, 4, 5 times that watching around the world. Yeah, and you probably, when you tot it up, you probably hear on your own Twitter line from about 500. Trodge, Lyle had more than one bad season, mate. John Lyle, the greatest manager in West Ham's history, only manager to relegate West Ham twice as well.
There you go. There you go.
Well, that's
and yet we revere him as being one of the best managers ever at the club.
Yeah.
Right, last comments before we go, because I know it's coming up to, it's 2:00 here in Cyprus.
Yeah.
Where it's midnight over there. Monday, very, very briefly, are we going out all defensive? I mean, Alf, you talked about, matching up other teams, etc., etc. We're at home to Bournemouth. It's a game we've got to win. It's a game we should be winning.
We're going to smash them 5-0. Come on.
I asked for that, didn't I?
Raise a smile. Come on, 5-0. You know we're going to win them. You know we're going to smash them. Go on, shoulders back, smash them. You know how it goes.
Nigel? Monday?
Yeah, I don't think 5, but I'm looking at 2 or 3. And the only thing is, Bournemouth have had that mini revival after that 9-0 tanking that they got off Liverpool. But there was obviously bad things going on between the owners and Scott Parker. Gary O'Neill, ex-Hammer, stepped up, done a good job, stabilised them, got them points, because a lot of people thought they were going to go down. But guess what? They still could, people. Yeah. Look, it was a tight game at the weekend that they lost. I think we'll have. I think the good thing is we only need a point against Silkeborg. So realistically, Bournemouth's the big game. Win that, we'll get a point against Silkeborg, and then
we don't need a point against Silkeborg.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we need 1 point just to be sure.
If we lose more, if we lose 3-0, if we lose 3-0 to Silkeborg, and then lose to Steaua Bucharest, and Silkeborg obviously beat us 3-0, and then win the game against Anderlecht. Silkeborg win the not only on head-to-head.
We're already there.
No, we're only.
We've certainly got through to the next round.
Unfortunately, instead of reading 6'2", you must have read Claret and You. Because Claret and You. Claret and You claims.
I don't read any of that. I just listen to you boys. That's all I listen to.
You must listen to
Alf, before you do that, you've got to also become a member of that. Free membership, 6foot2.co.uk.
Oh dear. Who are they then?
That is Mr. Carr. Well, look, 6'2" chief.
Who's that? Well, is it? Oh, no wonder I've been ignoring it. I've been seeing the posts on 6'2". Are you sure?
The good thing about, mate, you got to go on it. And we are looking for people to also write for it, Alf. Because I know you've done a little bit of that in the past.
I used to write in my time. Yes.
Yeah, you go.
Once in a while.
Well,
But anyway,
some people say that's what I do.
Once in a while.
Oh dear.
All right.
So what do you reckon for Monday night then? Go on.
I think we'll win, and I'm going to go out I'm going to say we're going to win comfortably. To be quite honest with you, I think Moyes will play. I think you said it earlier on, Nigel, about Downs. I think maybe I don't know. You just never know with Moyes, do you? It's quite possible that Downs won't play on Monday in order to play him on Thursday against Silkeborg. But I think if he does play Downs, I make Nigel right about maybe playing Downs and Declan in the middle to allow Downs to be the sitter and allow Declan to go forward. And but I think we will win. I think we'll win, and I think we'll win reasonably comfortably. I think we'll have a poor start. Well, I don't think it'll be 0-0 because I still think we've got a problem.
5-0, come on.
If we get
waiting for the comments, the people start saying 5-0. It's we're gonna create a groundswell of opinion here against West Ham fan base. 5-0. There we go. Everybody's gonna be shouting. Alf says 5-0. Alf says 5-0.
Trodge, Agerd is now training, but it'll probably still be a couple of weeks before we will see him in action. I think we'll, I think we'll see a Gerd in Romania. That might be his first game. Once we've finished we've won the group. I think that's where you might see a Gerd introduced into the team.
I think we're very fortunate that that Dawson didn't leave in the summer. I think we're very fortunate.
Moyes stopped him from leaving.
Yeah, no, he did. He did. I think we're very fortunate. I think that's still. I know that's still an ongoing issue there, but I think we're very fortunate that he stayed.
Agree.
I agree. Think, and I'm still not convinced by Zuma. I wish Bonner could come in and do a little bit more.
Yeah, Bonner's still carrying a knot. Zuma, I agree with you, seems slow. Mandy's asking about Paquetá and Cornet. Cornet, my understanding is, might be an outside chance, but Paquetá still will be another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
Howard says 5-0. There we go. You see, everybody is starting to agree with me. Everybody. That's
I think Howard
is just chat is agreeing with me now. 5-0. There we go.
I think Howard has had as many drinks as you have, so that's probably why he's agreeing with you.
Yeah. I need another.
Keith reckons we'll play a 4-4-3. Oh, he's taking the piss out of me because I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, you may or may not have watched me where I completely fucked up. Where I thought I had 12 players. I was predicting a team, and I convinced myself I had 12 players on the pitch. So I went in and took one off, and everyone was telling me now you've only got 10 on the pitch because I actually had 11 in the first place. So thank you for reminding me that, Keith. I think Monday's going to be an easy win. I think we're going to have an easy win against Silkeborg. In fact, I think we're going to have an easy win from here on in, and Claret and Boots won't have anything to moan about. So there you go.
Are you back for Monday?
Are you back? Bet on that. You're having a laugh.
Monday still? Are you back for Monday?
No, mate. I'm not back until Tuesday. So
okay. I'm going to see if I can do a quick swerve into the stadium, keep my head low. And make sure I don't say hello to anybody and just sort of go into my seat, bitch and moan as I normally do, and then bugger off home. Nice and sharpish. That's where I like it. I just keep my hat on, keep my head down, where I go.
So you're not buying me a drink then at the supporters club on Thursday night then?
I will. I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. Yeah, if I can make it.
Good. Be good to see you. Anyway, thank you guys. Much appreciated. It's past the witching hour. It's 2:00 in the morning here in Cyprus, and I've got an early day tomorrow. I've got to get up really early and sunbathe. So there you go.
Out.
Well, you know what? You're fucking right. We've got
You're the only man that can take cats on holiday with me.
No, mate, we ain't. They're not our cats.
What's the temperature like out there right now?
It's been quite weird, Alf. The first week was really, really hot, and this week it's been fucking intermittent of fucking rain.
How long are you out there for?
Only 2.5 weeks.
Only 2.5.
It's a tough old lot, isn't it?
Bloody hell. All right.
And it's been on and off rain. But, of course, we come back on Tuesday. And, of course, it'll be better weather from next week onwards. That's life, isn't it? But, Nigel, they're not.
Cyprus. I love Cyprus.
We are actually having a good time. We are actually having a good time. And Keith, mate, you're not fucking wrong. There is one on the cards, not two. And don't sort of encourage. She's sitting over there, and we're bringing a cat back. I can't fucking believe it. You come on holiday as a two, and you go home as a three.
Take a cat back.
Well, she's gonna put it in a fucking cattery, and they're gonna give it all the jabs and all that shit, and then they're gonna ship the little fucker over. There you go. Surprise you for going on fucking holiday.
Mate.
You are the cat sleeping, mate. So there you go.
No.
Anyway, thank you all. I'll be watching the game on Monday. Oh, no, I won't. I'll be at a wedding on Monday. But I will watch the game.
All I can say is it's been emotional, boys. It's been emotional. Thanks very much.
No, Alf, thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. I saw Alf in the chat and I thought, well, I haven't seen him for ages. And he went, I've had a few too many to drink. And I'm like, well, you're just the perfect person for this show then.
well, thanks for having me on. I need to have a top up now before I go to bed.
Well, lads, thank you. Really much appreciated. Right. And I'll see you all soon.
There we go. Look, Paul Evans, last comment. 5-0 Monday. Best comment of the night. 5-0. There you go. That's the way you go.
Thank you all for watching. We did try to get as many comments in. Sorry, we haven't addressed every single one of them, but as usual, your comments are really much appreciated. And
all of them?
Well, no, there were certain ones I did ignore, but there you go.
We appreciate every single.
I don't think he did, Alf.
No, I didn't, Alf.
But anyway,
we love.
There you go.
I'm only winding him up.
Yeah, we love those.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for watching. We'll see you all very soon. And as usual, come on, you irons.
Up the